Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the critic who's a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we are talking about the Joker box office because holy crap, I just talked about this on my Geeks and Gamers video. Go check it out over there. It should be live either pretty soon or later on today. But Joker has passed a giant milestone. Joker has now made $934 million in the worldwide box office, and remember, this is all off of a $55 million budget. That amount of profit off of your budget is absolutely insane. This will probably go down as one of the highest percentages as far as the highest grossing films of all time. Definitely not going to be the biggest number, right? Obviously, we look to films like Endgame, which made $2.7 billion. But when you compare the money that it made versus how much it cost to make, you see that percentage-wise, it actually made a lot less than what Joker's doing. Joker is well outperforming how much it actually costs, how much they actually had to invest in the movie. They're getting a lot of return on their investment is basically what I'm trying to say. But $934 million. What does that actually mean for the film? And does that mean the film is now going to reach the $1 billion mark? I will say yes. I would say that with this number we have this weekend, it now having been out for 4 weeks, I cannot see a world where this film does not cross the $1 billion mark. It has been performing so well domestically and in the foreign market. It had another about 30 to 20%, like in the 20s and 30s, the drops of these films, for this specific film from week to week. That's so impressive. That is so rare to find in Hollywood these days, where a film is not dropping off like so many other films tend to. Most films have 50, 60% drop from week 1 to week 2, and then continue to drop and drop and drop. This film has had such small drops that it's still in over 1,000 theaters, which for being out for almost a month is almost unheard of. Usually you have films that are starting to at least wrap up their theatrical run at this point in time, and this film is as if it was still just in its second weekend at this point compared to other films. And I would say that there's a good chance you could see this film cross the $1 billion mark by next weekend. That's how close the movie is. Now, you look at that and say, it still needs to make another $70 million or so how is that possible? Well, when you take into account this film has consistently made money in the U.S., about $1 million every single day, if you take into account that it likely will continue to make just about that much money throughout this week, that means you can add another $5 million on top of that. So you're closer to the $940 million range. Well, it's not just making money in the U.S. at that point in time, it's also making money overseas as well, which means that you're looking at another film that will probably add on another $10 to $20 million over the next week, which means that by the time the weekend comes along, you're looking at a film that will probably be close to around $960 million at least, which means it only needs to make another $40 million or so in order for that to come into being. Now, it made $13.9 million this weekend in the U.S. We can assume that if it has another small percentage drop like that, it'll probably come in close to $10 million for next weekend, even going up against the films like Dr. Sleep. It probably will continue to perform as being the second or third highest grossing film of that weekend. So you add on top of that another $10 million. Now you're getting closer to the $970 million range. And then you're assuming, or at least asking the question, how much more money can it make overseas? And is it completely outside of the realm of possibility that it makes $30 million next weekend overseas? Well, if it made $10 million here and it's outperforming domestically, or rather it's outperforming in the foreign market compared to the domestic market, it's absolutely within that possibility. Now let me go ahead and try and look at the box office numbers for the international market. The two biggest markets for it other than the US are the UK and Mexico, where it's performing extremely well. South Korea and Japan are also showing up too. What's amazing about this film, though, because you see that there's a big name off of this list, and that, of course, is China. The reason why, of course, being China's censors want to change the movie so much that the people at the studio are probably saying, yeah, you know what, screw you. We don't need your money. And guess what? They're showing very clearly that you do not need to bend down, you do not need to bow down to China and their censors and their communist regime in order to make money. That's why this film is so important. Not just because it's a great film, because it is a great film. Not just because of the acting, not just because of the cinematography and all these technical elements that we can talk about until we're blue in the face, because all of these objective qualities are so good. The other reason why this movie is so important is because you're looking at a film that not only is going to cross the $1 billion mark by next weekend, or if not the weekend after that, but also a film that is going to make countless millions of dollars return on investment for a studio, and all without having to do any dealings with China whatsoever. This shows that if you make a good movie, if you make a movie that people actually want to see, and you actually take it seriously, and you actually care about the product, that people from all over the world will show up for it, and all without you having to kowtow to the damn censors in China. Especially with everything we have going on in China right now, with all the Hong Kong protests, with all the nonsense of what we've been seeing from the Chinese government for years now. This is so important because, to me, it's now time for us to start calling out Hollywood when they're making these dealings with these communist regimes like China. We need to start saying, you know what? We won't see your movies if you will go ahead and change things and listen to their demands. We won't go see those films instead. Make these films. Make the films that don't care about what they want or don't want in their communist regime. Make films that are just good films and say, hey, if you want to see it, great. If you don't want to see it, that's fine too. And guess what? We're not going to change the movie just because your communist government decided to do so. If you want to be the voice of change in this world, if you want to actually try and push for good, positive change in this world, for example, like freedom, which I know is an odd concept for some people, but seriously, it's one that's so important to talk about, you could do so. Hollywood has the power to have an impact, whether they think they do or not. Now, of course, many of them wouldn't care because many of them would rather just line their pockets with that Chinese money, no matter where that money actually comes from. But could you imagine if we, as an audience, as a participation class, decided to say, you know what? I'm going to start looking to see what movie studios do in China. I'm going to start to see what kind of movies get released there, how many changes are being made, what kind of changes are being made there, because that tells me all I need to know about who is running that studio, what values they find to be important, and also whether or not they care more about money than about actually giving you a good product, while also at the same time making money as well. Joker is a triumph. Joker is doing incredibly well. Joker is on pace to cross the $1 billion mark, all without China, all without having to kowtow to their demands. And this is so important. And this is something that all of us could, all studios can learn a lesson from, especially studios like Paramount, where their film, Terminator Dark Fate, which did get a China release, which did change the movie because of the Chinese censors, which did kowtow to that regime, is now bombing. Because they focus more on agenda, they focus more on pushing a narrative than actually giving you a good story. You had a film right here, pushed narrative, pushed agenda, failed. You have another film that was just a damn good film, didn't care about anything else, successful. I think this speaks volumes for itself. Anyway, let me know thoughts about this stuff in the comment section below. Also, I plan on seeing a couple of movies today. Unfortunately, because of where I live, the movie theaters don't really start having any showings until afternoon, which it's just hitting noon right now. So after I put up this video, it's going to be me going to the theater. I'm going to try to do some vlogging as well on my experience on the way there, talk about the movies that I'm planning on seeing, giving y'all reviews after that I see the movies too, and I'll either post them up on the main channel or over on the Welcome to Asgard channel, where I do want to start putting up more content as well. I might make a special video for there if I don't put up the reviews on that channel. But anyway, if you want to be interested in what I think about films like The Lighthouse or other films like it, please go ahead and hit the eye above my head and subscribe to that channel. If you like this video, smash that like button, give me a subscribe. It helps me out a lot. You are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.